Tonight, delivering pensions for the 21st century, the Labour peer Lord Hutton publishes his plan on pension reform. We know it'll save money, but is the real use for the government helping it shrink the public sector? We'll debate who the winners and losers are and whether the system can ever be described as fair. Also, lessons on globalisation from Lord Mandelson.
Put simply, it's the distinction between, in the main, open, liberal and democratically run economies and others that are more centralised and protected by the state.
He's here to explain why 13 years in power wasn't enough for him to put his ideas into practice. Conflict rages on in Libya with Gaddafi's forces retaking territory. Is Britain out of step with NATO's stance on a no-fly zone? First, anger over the Ground Zero mosque. Now Congress investigates radical American Muslims. We ask if a new McCarthyism is afoot.
To back down would be a craven surrender to political correctness and an abdication of what I believe to be the main responsibility of this committee, to protect America from a terrorist attack.
And it was the tune that made Corner Shop a household name. We'll bring you the lyrics of their new album, which might surprise you even more. Now, the band best known for some of the most puzzling lyrics ever to make it to #1 have a new album out next week. Corner Shop hit the big time with A Brimful of Asher in 1997. In their new work, every track is sung in Punjabi. Sarfraz Manzoor has been exploring the band's sometimes complicated relationship with British Asian culture.
If you've heard anything from Corner Shop, then chances are it's this song. Brimful of Asher was a landmark record for the group, and when it reached #1 13 years ago, it was a defining moment for a generation of young British Asians. It was also validation for the band, who'd formed in the early 90s.
At the beginning, it was pretty difficult for us to play. We played in the north, in Preston, and we played in working men's clubs and labour clubs, and the reaction was pretty hostile.
Who from?
Pretty much anyone who was there. To have a guitar was pretty bad in the Asian community, but to be singing in English was seen as more than pretty bad.
Having made their name with a song about a female Asian singer, Corner Shop are now working with one. Their new album sees Tajinder returning to his Indian roots with an album that puts his music to the Punjabi folk songs of singer Bubbly Kaur.
I met Bubbly, who was working at that time in a laundrette, but we met in Angel. It's a bit like when Brown met Blair. It was on Upper Street, and we conspired to do some music together.
The album's taken 7 years to make. The first single, Top Knot, was released to great critical acclaim in 2004 and championed by the late John Peel.
I've always seen Punjabi folk music as a precursor to hip-hop, in the way that it's put together, in its simplicity, in the big beat that drives it, in the parochialness of the lyrics.
I am very shy, but when I'm singing, I'm really enjoying myself. So I'm not shy when I'm singing.
Are you always a bloody stupid?
Can you show me Pakistan on that map?
You don't know who he is?
Poland.
Tajinder grew up in the 1970s, a decade also depicted in the recently released West is West. But the lives of British Asians today is very different to back then. Corner Shop have been around for 20 years now, so what do younger British Asians, some of whom weren't even born when they first started, make of them now? We invited some Corner Shop fans to an East London barber shop where the band had filmed a recent video.
I'm like the #1 fan, and I actually wrote a letter to the band, and I was like, look, what you're doing is amazing.
I remember singing the song over and over again at karaoke, despite being half Indian. It was the first time I'd been introduced to any Indian music.
So that's what the fans think. But what about those who are just at the barbers to get their hair cut? Do you ever listen to Corner Shop?
No. I don't really listen to a lot of Indian, Bengali, and like I like a bit of Bengali, but I don't understand anything other languages, so I don't really.
And you can do sort of beatboxy things as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're going to give us a.
Yeah, sure.
Go for it. Both Tajinder and Ben are now in their 40s. Yesterday's angry young men who burned photographs of their hero Morrissey are today's middle-aged dads. So is their new record the soundtrack to a sonic revolution, or just pleasant dinner party music?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah, I think this album is relatively edgy because we've put quite adventurous musical backing with Bubbly's very fine vocals, and it creates quite a different combination than most people would expect.
Haven't you heard? Asians are cool these days!
In the 90s, Corner Shop were part of a new wave that included shows like Goodness Gracious Me, which helped put British Asians on the cultural map.
Sing with me. Brimful of passion on the...
We found it annoying to be grouped with loads of other things that had nothing to do with us. We were trying to do our own thing musically, trying to do stuff that would stand the test of time and be interesting, and to be associated with a comedy program or a stand-up comedian because Tajinder's of Asian background, it just seemed ludicrous to me. But
I've always looked at myself as a wog, and people get offended by that, but for me it's quite a nice genteel term, Western Oriental gentleman.
You've had success, you are managing to have the career in the thing you want to do. Doesn't it sound like deliberately provocative to say you're a wog? I mean, actually you're as British as anyone, aren't you?
It's what you consider yourself, and I've never considered myself British. I like to think of the Asian side of things, but that's possibly because every time I wake up in the morning, the Asian side of things is there. It's the way one thinks of themselves, and I find it a nice term, and it encapsulates how I feel about things.
And that hasn't changed since you were a kid?
Not really.
The new Corner Shop record may not win over the beatbox crowd, but it does show them continuing to break new ground, both for British Asians and British music.
Safraz Manzoor reporting. Finally, a strange thing happened in the Commons.
दिल मेरा पागल हो गया तेरी सोचा सोच के दिल मेरा पागल हो गया तेरी सोचा सोच के कुछ गल्ला याद आ गया तेरी सोचा सोच के